Okay, there we are. Right, I'm going to kick off. Someone stop me if it's not working right. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for coming along. My name is Fiona Basford. I'm a conservation officer for Buglife, and my jurisdiction, my area is in the East Coast, from Aberdeen to Dundee. And so, who is Buglife? Just a little bit of background about the charity itself. Buglife is a UK-wide charity. It was first set up in 2000 as the Invertebrate Conservation Trust. And interestingly, they're the only charity within Europe that is concerned with the conservation of all invertebrates, which I think is quite cool. So our main aim is to halt invertebrate extinctions and to achieve sustainable populations of invertebrates in the UK. Okay. So we work to do this through practical conservation work, through shaping policy, raising awareness, and hopefully inspiring others as well. Some of the notable programs that we have that are currently running are Beelines, which is connecting and encouraging habitat creation, restoration, and enhancement of flower-rich grasslands. Important Invertebrate Areas, or IIAs, which is mapping out key habitats and landscapes for invertebrates, which supports some of our rarest and most threatened species. And Guardians of our Rivers, which is connecting communities to our local rivers and helping build more resilient rivers as well. My project is Species on the Edge. So Species on the Edge is quite an ambitious programme. It's 4 years. I've come into it halfway through year 3. It is comprised of 8 organisations, eight conservation organisations that are working together to support the species recovery of 37 different vulnerable species across Scotland. And Species on the Edge, so it focuses on the coastal areas, and that's the main focus there. It's led by Nature Scott, and as you can see, there's quite a few recognisable names there within the partnership. Just to kind of make you aware that it's principally funded by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, but there are many other contributors to make this possible. So that's just a little bit of an insight into the project areas that we have across Scotland. There are many different project officers, and the species are split based on their geographical location there. In my area, I'm involved in the species recovery of 3 species, the Bordered Brown Lacewing, the Northern Brown Argus, and the small blue butterfly. Okay. And within that, there's an Invertebrates on the Edge programme as well, which Buglife are the key leading partner. And this is just a nice little sample of some of the invertebrates that we've got within the programme. And today we will be focusing on the Bordered Brown Lacewing. So one of the target outcomes of the programme is to have a better understanding of the requirements of the species, in this case the Bordered Brown Lacewing, to inform an inclusive and effective conservation action. So we plan to do this by delivering a programme of population and habitat condition surveying. So that's one of the reasons that we are reaching out to volunteers to help us inform where there are populations across Scotland. I think this is a great photo. This was taken by Dr. Nick Littlewood, a lecturer at SRUC. He's a big supporter of the Bordered Brown Lacewing, and I was actually out with him today looking for the wee creatures. And he is a Bordered Brown Lacewing whisperer because they just fall into his tray. And yeah, he is very lucky. Okay, so I just wanted to mention, one of the things that I've been trying to promote, which is 200 hours for lacewings. So today marks the 200 years since the Bordered Brown Lacewing was first recorded in the UK. It was recorded by a renowned entomologist named James Charles Dale. He was very successful, but also very wealthy, had lots of privilege, and enabled him to spend time looking for insects. Why not? And he lived to the grand old age of 80, which was quite good for the time, and has passed on lots of information, and notably the Bordered Brown Lacewing. So we want to, taking this sort of 200 years and kind of minimizing that down to 200 hours, what we want to do is to encourage volunteers to collectively contribute to 200 hours of learning about, surveying, and helping to conserve the Bordered Brown Lacewing. It's a little bit ambitious, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I think we can get there. So even just by attending this session, that's clocking up the hours and hopefully raising the awareness. Okay, so why should we care about lacewings? They are natural pest controllers. They are aphid eaters. They're the gardener's friend. They keep ecosystems in balance. And they are also minor pollinators as well. They're a rare species. And I think most importantly, they are very beautiful. They're quite fun to record. And I love seeing them out and about. So what makes a lacewing? A lacewing, long antennae, two pairs of large membranous wings with complex venation. So that is, we'll touch on that later, and why that's important with the Bordered Brown Lacewing for its identification. No abdominal tail and large prominent eyes. Lacewings also go through a complete metamorphosis, as do other Eurypterans, with slight variations between the orders. So the Bordered Brown Lacewing belongs to the brown lacewing family, which is the Hemerobidae family. There are at least 70 species of lacewing in the UK overall, and at least 31 of these are in the brown family. Many have a recurrent humeral vein, which is, I don't know if I can use the pointer here, if maybe you can see that, but it's the long prominent vein that runs from the body right down towards the tip of the forewing. And forked costal cross veins as well. They're associated with a wide range of habitats, and a lot of the species, to be fair, look fairly similar. So most brown lacewings are only reliably identified by looking closely at the wing venation. And yeah, okay. So as I say, the Bordered Brown Lacewing is part of the Hemerobidae family. It's thought to be associated with wood sage. That's what we are finding it residing on, and that's where we target for surveys, and it occurs in low abundance. It's thought to fly from late May to August. We're finding, a lot of species are flying a little bit earlier, year on year. So some of these seasons seem to be changing slightly. So it's always good to be a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to the flight season. So yes, it's associated with wood sage, which is very prolific across Scotland. However, it seems that this lacewing is quite keen on rocky exposed slopes and under cliffs as well. It might not be solely associated with the wood sage. However, it's the strongest association that we have found so far. It's a very rare species, only known to exist at 2 sites in the UK before 2019, and we don't know too much about it. So there's quite a need to gather as much data as possible on this and learn more about it so that we can protect it. Up until 2015, it was thought to have possibly gone extinct, and I think it was a volunteer from Buglife wanted to do a project to find out if it was still extant, if it was still in Scotland, and they then made some records, which was great. And then cut to, I guess, 2019, where there was some more surveys done in association with Buglife in the Aberdeenshire coast, and slowly but surely we're starting to pick up the numbers. So the two places that it's located predominantly is Edinburgh and Holyrood Park, and along the Aberdeenshire coast. And there's one record actually further north in Sutherland, Helmsdale as well. It was thought that the habitat in that area looked fairly similar to what we're finding here in Aberdeenshire, and yeah, there was success in finding it there. So overall, due to a lack of knowledge regarding ecological needs and distribution of this species, it's important that we find out and determine its status within the UK. It is on the Scottish biodiversity list as a priority species, and we want to make sure that we protect it the best that we can. So to identification, as I say, so this is very small lacewing. It is 1 centimetre in length. It's got what we call a wide costal space in the forewings. So as this humeral vein runs through the forewing, the space underneath, which is towards the furthest most tip of the forewing, contains these branched cross veins. It has at least 6 of these radial veins and a recurrent humeral vein. So this is the defining characteristic for this particular species. It's worth noting as well that you can't just about see it with the naked eye, but it is much clearer with a hand lens. So to wood sage, as I said earlier, wood sage is found quite prolifically, and it's found on acidic sort of sandy soils, heaths, cliffs, and along woodland ridges. It flowers between July and September, although I've noticed some of it flowering a wee bit earlier in June this year. If you want to identify wood sage, and it's maybe not something that you're confident on, what I would say is the thing that kind of helps me to get my eye in is the crenate edges of the leaves, a little bit like curved teeth around the outside. It's a bit puckered, it's a bit wrinkled, it's a wee bit hairy as well. And it's got leaves that are paired opposite to each other going up the plant. Unfortunately, I thought it would be great if it had the same smell as common sage, but it doesn't, unfortunately. So it does. And the flowers are a sort of straw-like yellowish flower when it's in bloom. It's also got lots of other names as well, like woodland germander, sage leaf germander, garlic sage. The list goes on, but we'll refer to it here as wood sage. Right. So, sorry. The distribution across, as I was just alluding to earlier, it looks bleak. And what we need to do is try and encourage as many people as possible to go out there and have a look for it. And we want to expand that range. And although my programme is based from Aberdeen down the coast to Dundee, we want, you know, as many places as possible to find out as much as we can about it. Lovely photo there. Yeah, I was so lucky to have one land on me the other week. I was very keen to get a wee photograph of that moment, and it was quite actually calm and didn't just fly off straight away. So that was a lovely little experience. The sightings here, I actually should have updated this graph based on our 6 sightings earlier on. but this is how it stood before today. So as you can see, the records are slightly increasing, but we need to do better, and I think we definitely can do better. So moving on to the way to survey. So there are different ways of surveying, but what I found is you can use a sweep net. That's perfectly adequate way of surveying. However, I want to emphasize the sort of beating and tray method so that we can. I've been told that it's slightly more effective. So the way in which we do it, we use a light coloured tray or basin. It's preferable to have a basin because it has slightly higher sides than a tray. So if a gust of wind comes after it has landed in the basin, then it's a little bit protected. I use the very scientific equipment, a stick. It could be any stick. You could use, a lovely stick that is nice and polished, but any stick will do. And what we're trying to do there is hold it horizontally next to the wood sage and beat the wood sage holding the tray at the bottom. We give it sort of 2 or 3 sort of robust beats of the stick, but not enough to obviously cause damage to the plant irreversibly. And the contents of any of the wee bugs, hold it on. Hopefully it'll fall into the tray. We have a wee look. And if we're lucky enough to find a bordered brown lacewing, then we pop it into a sample pot carefully. You get a few seconds to do it because it sort of plays dead for a little bit, and the way that it sort of puts its little wings back and kind of almost retreats into itself like a tortoise. Its head kind of goes back into its wings, so it's quite cute, and buys you a little bit of time. What we're asking is that once it's in the specimen jar, that you take a photograph as clearly as possible, so that we can positively identify that later on. Once you send in the survey report, we would look for the number of individuals seen and to record a grid reference using a GPS device or phone app. I mean, it's unlikely to be a GPS device. What I like to use is OS Locate. I use that app quite often, and we're ideally looking for an 8 or 10 figure grid reference. OS Locate supports both of that. I like to take a little sort of screenshot once I've got the app open and let it settle down for a little bit. What I should have said as well, that we have a survey form to take this information, and I will take you through that in the next few slides. So don't worry, all this information will be repeated, and there is written guidance as well. So that's the first step there. As well as the population of the bordered brown lacewing, we want to know about the habitat as well. So as much information as you can gather is really useful for us to understand the abundance and the distribution of wood sage, the slope, the aspect and the shading. So with the aspect, again, you could use the OS Locate app to identify where north is and then write down what the aspect is. If there's any other plants present, so far in my experience, it's mainly been gorse, and that seems to be the probably the biggest threat actually to the habitat. So again, yeah, they report any management issues or threats to the habitat, bracken, gorse, path erosion, that type of thing. All this information is extremely useful for us, and we can use that to inform our conservation actions. There's another section within the survey report for mapping, and it doesn't have to be fancy, and it doesn't even have to be what I've put on the screen grab there. What I've used to do that particular map that I'm showing you there is a grid reference finder, and you can do some very basic lines and change the colour of them. So what I've done here is shown that the section in green, the green triangle, indicates wood sage, and then just a smaller section showing where we found the adults. I must say I have put eggs there, BBL adults and eggs. It's not something that we have many photographs of with the eggs, but they are known to be laid on the underside of the wood sage leaves. So if you're inclined to look for those, there is a section within the form to record that if you're able to find that and hopefully photograph that as well. But like I say, the map doesn't have to be like this at all, a sketch. It's just to give us an indication of the area that you were looking in. Even if you found an absence of wood sage, that's helpful for us to know where you've checked and whether it's present or not. So this is the form, and this is like the mock example that I've got within the guidance information that I will send out. As you can see, I've just typed in some sort of nonsensical bits and pieces there. However, there's a little bit of guidance in terms of the types of things you could say for the description of the habitat. I'll go through this form just step by step. So your name, email address, phone number, and the name of the site. It would be even better as well if there was a general grid reference here, but we are asking for grid references in the next section. A little bit of notes there about the wood sage abundance. And then you'll notice here that we've got a line about please indicate if these records have been uploaded to iRecord or similar. I don't know just yet how quickly people verify the Bordered Brown Lacewing on iRecord. That's I put in a few records the other day, and they've been yet to be verified. So it's totally fine if you don't upload to iRecord, and that's something that we can do. So it's just to indicate whether you have or you haven't, because we don't want to obviously duplicate any records. The next section is about description of the habitat. So it's got a little bit of a few pointers there and what types of things that you can include. Site ownership is always a useful one if if you know that. It's not always easy to determine who the owner is, but best guess is fine. And if you're unsure, just leave it blank. Current use and management. Whatever your best guess is at that as well. You might know exactly what it's used for, but again, it's okay if you're unsure. Site access, that's really handy for us because if we want to go and revisit that site at any point, knowing where you gain site access and it helps with us planning ahead and risk assessments for that. And then onto the map there, and basically I've put my email address there for it being sent back. If you want to take a photo of it and send it as a photo attachment, whatever works easiest for yourself. Obviously, it's helpful not to have to print off lots of copies of the forms. So if you wanted to jot down these bits and pieces in a notebook and then transfer it electronically, that's fine as well. We just want to encourage as much data as possible to come our way. I mentioned a little bit there just about risk assessment. A lot of these locations that we've found it so far have potential for risk in terms of cliffs, cliff edges, rockfall, that type of thing. We are not expecting anyone to put themselves in any danger, and if you have any concerns at all about the place that you might be looking at, then we would expect that you abandon ship basically and don't progress any further. Do not put yourself in any danger at all. And if you would like a copy of our standard risk assessment that we use, by all means, drop me an email and I will send that on to you. Okay, so submitting records, as I said, submit to my email address there. Please include photographs so that we can give a positive identification. It's also really useful for us to know how long you've spent surveying. It helps with the 200 hours for Lacewings challenge, and it just gives us an indication of volunteer time spent as well. In terms of sites and locations, we are not saying, please, like these are the identified sites. It's an invitation to discover what's local to you, what's easy for you, and to do it safely and at your convenience. As I say, I'll send out the blank copies of the survey form, in addition the guidance. And if you do choose to participate in any of the surveys, excuse me, going forward, I'll just look for a simple volunteer consent form, just so that we can keep your details on file for the duration of the project. I've got a wee QR code here if you want to snap a snapshot of that. If you're interested in signing up to the Species on the Edge mailing list, it covers obviously all the different species, the 37. So if there's others in your area that you might be interested in finding out more about, then please do go for that. Also, just keep an eye out on Species on the Edge and Buglife social media pages. On that, we'll put out notifications about any other online events and any talks that we've got coming up. And that brings me to the end. That went quickly. Does anyone have any questions? I'll stop the recording.